Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom, where we bring you engaging conversations and respectful disagreement across the social spectrum.
Injected with the quirks of everyday life.
Curl up as we navigate the complexities of this modern world with all the humor and warmth we can muster.
And the occasional gentle ribbing. We're glad you're here. Happy listening.
We've built a culture that worships the next big thing. Faster, smarter, newer. But no one talks about what happens when progress starts to draw blood. Today, we're talking about the edges, the cutting edge, the leading edge, and the bleeding edge. Each sounds like it belongs in a sci-fi novel or a Silicon Valley pitch deck, but they actually describe how we move through change as individuals, as communities, and as a culture. There's a sweet spot between progress and pain, and it's not always easy to tell which side of the line. And it's not.
We're breaking down what it feels like to live on those edges, the excitement of being early to something new, the exhaustion of trying to keep up, and that moment where you realize maybe you've gone too far too fast. Whether it's technology, social movements, or just how we make decisions, we all have a threshold for risk because everyone wants to live on the edge, but no one wants to be the one who falls off.
And we wanted to talk about how each edge has its place, because progress doesn't happen without the people willing to push limits, but stability doesn't survive without the ones who slow it down. Every generation has to decide what kind of risk it's willing to take and determine what's worth protecting. While every new idea starts with a spark, the question is whether each will light the way forward or burn the house down. We're asking, how do you know when something's innovative versus when it's just reckless? Welcome to Two Millennials and Mom.
I'm Callie.
I'm Cole.
I'm Mom.
Real quick, I don't think those last two are mutually exclusive. I think you can be both reckless and innovative at the same time. But, Callie, can you give us the rundown on this? Just a real quick kind of description, the differentiators between those three edges that we're talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely. So the cutting edge is where innovation meets usability. The sweet spot where something's new and exciting, but it's not so new that it's going to implode in your hands, right? So think of it along the lines of smartphones when they first became mainstream, ChatGPT today as it recently just hit the public's hands, early hybrid cars or streaming services. I mean, do you guys remember when Netflix came out and they were mailing DVDs to your house to rent? And then you've got the leading edge. The leading edge is the dreamers, the risk takers, and the ones who make everyone else nervous. The leading edge is where bold people live, the inventors, early adopters, the folks who sign up for the beta version of life just to see what happens. Examples might include early space travel, open source software communities, first electric car owners, people testing new social media movements or political ideas long before they're mainstream, right? And then there's the bleeding edge. This is when innovation goes too far too fast, where the cost of all of this shows up in money, in time, and sometimes in people. Innovation that's so fresh, it's still figuring out how to not hurt you. Think early gene editing and CRISPR, Theranos, early crypto, unregulated AI, social media algorithms before any kind of guardrails came up. So I think it's really fascinating to look at all three in conjunction with the others and walk through them. I've been thinking about it this week, and I have some questions for us as we work through them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you put ChatGPT in cutting edge. I would probably personally categorize it somewhere closer to between leading edge and bleeding edge, because I think there are still some pretty significant risks with something like that. I think and this is a technical term, but it's known to still hallucinate pretty frequently, and it's getting better all the time. Don't get me wrong, but I would classify it a little bit differently, which I thought was interesting.
And I think that that's part of what's so fascinating. Like, it depends on where you sit in the room and what you categorize as the definitions of some of these things and where your comfort level falls as to how you define them.
Yeah,
I mean,
perspective is a lot of it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're sitting here talking to one of those Apollo mission astronauts, they're going to have a totally different take on it than maybe one of those Apollo missions astronauts who didn't survive their wife. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's all dependent on how you're using it or what you're using it. I mean, ChatGPT for some people is just a simple Google, and
Which is scary in and of itself.
but for some people who can delve deeper into that, and I mean, it can become your therapist or your love attraction or whatever. And so it really varies on usage and who you are and how you're using it.
Yeah.
So, Callie, remind me how these terms even came up to your attention.
So I was in a training for work and I'd heard some of them. I'd heard the cutting edge and the leading edge, especially when in reference to technology. So then they started talking about the bleeding edge. And I was like, what does that really mean? How is that defined? And where does it apply? Because while I had heard it, I hadn't really heard it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, hadn't defined it.
Yeah, I never put any thought, much less stock into what it means and how it works in all of our regular everyday lives. And so I spent a good chunk of time thinking about the differences between the three and really siloing them, cataloging, characterizing each one. And my question becomes now, no matter what it is, but if something makes it through to be boring, let's say something like VHS tapes. Those were a big deal at one point in time.
Yeah.
And so you could say, hey, these at one point in time, it was a little while ago, but these were on the edge of technology. This is bringing memories and video into the hands of general everyday users, everyday people. I remember when our grandparents had a videotape recorder that you could record movies on and videos on, like of us dancing or riding our bikes or doing stupid things. And that
Or
was a
Walker
really
Texas
big
Ranger
deal.
on TV.
Or on television. Yeah. But do you think that those had a moment in their life cycle where they were the bleeding edge of technology?
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, was there ever a time where VHS was like, at least from like the public's perspective, untested? Like, was VHS ever dangerous?
I mean,
And it's
I
really
think
hard to picture it that way.
it is, but what if it is all of a sudden taking those memories and putting them out there for somebody else? Think along the lines of the original sex tapes.
I was going with just pirating of movies, but you went deep.
I think both are accurate though,
Hmm.
and both have real world consequences that
Well, and
could hurt
really, those
people.
were the predecessors of DVRs so that you could watch the show that you wanted to watch when you wanted to watch it because you could record it first and then watch it later. And so you just think of the building blocks that came from all of that, and it's kind of interesting to look at from that perspective.
This is really interesting to me from a different perspective because I don't know that it was actually VHS or DVD or DVR that was really the cutting edge technology, the bleeding edge technology. It was data storage because that's all any of them are.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have a
Yeah.
point.
And that was such a big leap at the time that was so crazy. I mean, do you guys remember floppy disks?
Sure.
Yes.
I mean, and I feel like there were people, I certainly felt that way about CDs. I was like, CDs are never going to go out of style. We had those big, huge
They're
books,
so much better.
CD albums, right? Like of all of
Yeah.
these albums that you kept them all and you had to keep them in good condition. And they had to have the little soft inserts, not just the plastic, because I would scratch them and you would ruin your CDs and that would just be horrible. And
But
then
even
it
think
all went
about,
away.
I mean, 40 years ago, a new computer, if it had 256
Megabytes.
megabytes on it, was a big deal. And
Yeah.
now Not only
Now
do we
you've
have
got internet speeds that are a gigabyte a second.
yeah, and cloud storage,
Yeah.
and I mean, you've got software that takes up 10 times more than 250 megabytes.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Thousands of times more. I mean,
yeah.
the average video game these days is a couple dozen gigabytes. Some of the more popular ones are hundreds of gigabytes.
Right.
And then you're talking about what we're building now to hold all of that storage. I mean, the thousands and thousands of real estate footage that just to hold
For
all
data
of that
centers and
data.
processing power and
Yeah.
And
electricity and
I was
energy
about to
that
say, the energy required to maintain all of that is now having to be pushed onto the bleeding edge, if you will, just to try
Mhm.
and power all of that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. In
Pretty
fact,
fascinating,
yeah, Pam sent us a deal the other day about data centers. Do y'all remember that?
vaguely.
Yeah.
So she sent us a deal that says without data centers, the GDP was zero point 0 or was 0.1% for the first half of 2025. And then let me pull this up and I'll cut this out for us, but I literally went in and did some investigation of because that's all that she sent, but I did some investigation into what that is and what that means and how it all works. Okay. So the quote is talking about the US gross domestic product, the US GDP, the total value of everything in the that the country produces. If you took out the contribution of data centers from the economy, the GDP growth in the first half of 2025 would have only been 0.1%.
So
Wow.
that's a little bit different than
The initial reading.
yeah,
Yeah.
because without
Yeah.
data centers, GDP was 0.1% is wildly different than GDP growth.
So
Yeah.
that means that all of the GDP growth during that period came from the boom in data centers, mainly due to the explosion of investment in AI infrastructure, cloud computing, and big tech building massive facilities to handle AI workloads. So if you exclude that one industry's data, the rest of the economy was basically flat and almost not growing at all. And AI infrastructure specifically is driving the economy right now. US economic growth is heavily reliant on big tech and the AI boom. And then the broader economy might be weaker than it looks because if you remove all those data centers, there's not much growth happening in other sectors. Think manufacturing, retail, even housing. So that alone is kind of scary. I mean, we talked here in another episode about, oh, what's his name? Sam Altman talking about the processing power that it takes and the electricity bills that are required just to say please and thank you to your
Yeah.
chat bots and things like that. And why he's like, it's money well spent. I mean, what is that? How does that translate into the rest of all of these edges, right? The
Yeah.
bleeding edge, the cutting edge, the leading edge. What is it that, I mean, obviously he's willing to prioritize spending that money because it is important to him, which I get.
Yeah.
But what if he wasn't? What would that look like then? So I'm going to go through these kind of each of these edges, if you will, and break them down a little bit more. So let's go back to the cutting edge. I feel like that's one of the ones that you hear most commonly talking about the cutting edge of technology. And Cole, maybe you can clarify this for me. It isn't really always technology that's at play here, is it?
I mean, generally, that's probably what you're going to hear it in reference to. But yeah, you could use the term cutting edge in reference to really any form of innovation. Now,
And
in modern society, most of that innovation is going to
Is
be tech
technology,
driven.
right?
and I would have said to you that if somebody said to me, "Oh, this is on the cutting edge," I would have thought, "Oh, that's the newest, the greatest, the sweetest. We're ready to go, raring to go kind of thing."
Right.
And I'm not sure it's as advanced as it is in my mind when I hear that,
Yeah.
because I think the terminology has changed a little bit.
Yeah, I think when you hear cutting edge, you think of crisp, straight lines, white, modern rooms, sleek metallic objects doing things that you never could have imagined is kind of the mental image that comes to
Yeah.
mind when you talk
Yeah.
about the cutting edge.
Yeah. But I think that in plain terms, that kind of breaks down to advancement, refined innovation that's still stable and accessible kind of to the masses. I think about kind of, and Nicole, I know you're an Android guy. I'm not trying to hate on Androids, but I think that even when you were describing it a minute ago about what the mental image is, I think that Apple defines that or personifies that, maybe is a better way to say it, in many ways.
That is very much their corporate image.
That is very much their corporate image. And so when those smartphones went mainstream, I was a BlackBerry girl for several years, long before the
Yeah.
iPhone, before I jumped ship. But I mean, that was a big deal. I mean, sitting here being able to message people and get on the internet from your pocket, like that was crazy. And then it just became second nature. I
Yeah.
mean, I make jokes all of the time. We all have supercomputers in our pockets.
That's so funny. I have not thought about a BlackBerry, and I'm with you, Callie. I was
Yeah, you were an early adopter.
indoctrinated. Yeah, to Black
Uh-huh.
and I haven't even considered that or thought about one in years.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
When you said that, I was like, "Oh,
And the crazy part is there was a whole generation of other cell phones that BlackBerries really kind of inspired
Uh-huh.
that
mm,
we went through too
Oh, yeah.
before we got to where we are now. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
thinking about like the Sidekick. It's like the first phone built for texting. The screen slid up and it had a full keyboard.
2 hands.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah,
But
for
that was
sure.
like the first one I think that wasn't a BlackBerry that kind of had access to something like that.
Or games beyond Snake.
Yeah. Now you have mobile devices that are being built and marketed solely for mobile gaming.
Yeah. With people across the world in real time. I can
yeah,
play Rummy Cube with people all over the world at any
yeah,
time of day.
I can play Call of Duty.
Yeah. Yeah. Priorities. We just have different priorities.
Well, I mean, just the processing power for something like Call of Duty relative to Rummikub is pretty
mm,
significantly different.
For
There's
sure.
a lot more inputs going through a real-time
fun.
first-person shooter than,
Get technical on us. That's
well,
fine.
I'm just saying it's even more expansive than what we're just talking about here.
Oh, for
It
sure.
is.
So I think in general, the cutting edge is probably where most people are looking to live. It's impressive, but it's still safe. And I kind of hesitate to say to add that safety part because I think it's supposed to be safe, but then you
Safer.
kind of, yeah, safer. Then you kind of get the extremes. The amount of access and
Yeah,
information and privacy that all of these smartphones hold could be really dangerous, especially
Yeah.
if they're in the wrong hands.
Well, I think there's a lot of opportunity for there to be some blur between these edges.
Yeah, yeah,
well said.
I agree.
Yeah.
So here's one of my next questions for you guys. How does the cutting edge for one generation become ordinary for the next? I'm trying to think, and mom, I'm not trying to age you, but I'm trying to think of like big major innovations that came out in your generation.
Automatic vehicles. I mean, they were popularized and really became
Yeah,
common between our generations.
yeah.
Now,
As much as I hate to agree with him on that, I mean, most of the time it was standard, and then all of a sudden you had an automatic. I think microwaves, I mean, if you really wanna go back before my time, you can talk about color TVs and the changes that came from there. So, what was a big deal at one point, I mean, when you go from sitting around the family room listening to the radio, the president on the radio, to watching him on colored TV in a generation's time, that's a big deal.
yeah, I mean, just access to information as a concept.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and then you bring in Amazon and online shopping, and you don't have
Yeah.
to leave your house to order damn near anything.
Yeah.
Have
I
it
can have
delivered right to
groceries
your door.
delivered, meals delivered, an exercise bike in the next day or 2 kinda
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
at my whim.
I'll say, and it's easy.
Easy.
Yeah. So I think that millennials specifically kind of have an interesting rap when it comes to this. Millennials are known for wanting to be first, but not too first. We want the new thing, but we want it after the first software update. Like I said, my first iPhone was an iPhone 3. I wanted to make sure that this was actually a thing and it wasn't going to bite us all in the ass. But I was not going to be standing, and still to this day, you will never find me standing in line at an Apple store for the next new version at
No.
all.
Which kinda surprised me that you clock that down as a millennial thing, because 'cause there'll be a lot of millennials in that line waiting for that next new thing at Apple. So it kinda surprises me that you see that as a millennial.
I think I'm more with Callie on this one. There was a time in our more formative years where, and it became a joke, but being a hipster was cool. Being the first, I listened to them before they were popular. I used an iPhone before it was cool. I had a Macintosh computer before it was cool. And now it's a joke.
Mhm.
Shut up, hipster.
Mhm.
Like we get it. I mean, even in this is silly, you'll still go on YouTube and you'll see a comment first,
Oh, yeah.
and you're just like, shut up. Nobody cares.
Is that because you weren't the first or
No,
because
it's
nobody
because
really
nobody
cares?
cares.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. So, how do you tell when something has crossed the line from bleeding edge to cutting edge
I guess when you're watching the millennials watch it to see if they wanna do it.
to jump on board?
Yeah.
I mean, but how fast is that changing? I mean,
Oh.
I've been watching some guys on YouTube who have kind of talked about this, and this is a really interesting thing to think about. What do you think the average age of people who play the Pokemon video games is today?
41.
No.
What do you think, Ma?
Serious? 41?
That's my guess. I have no idea. What's your guess?
10.
Mom, you would think that yours would be right because these are games that are designed for like
Children.
8 to 12-year-olds. The average age of Pokemon game players is 32.
Is that just the nostalgia part of it?
I think that has a lot to do with it. The generations after millennials aren't playing games the same way we did.
What do you mean they're not playing games? So they're not sitting around the dining table because we're not
Video
socializing.
games specifically. Generations after millennials are not playing video games at nearly the same rates.
There's not the community there.
Well,
There's not the
just
interest. Tell me more.
not as many people after the millennial generation are playing video games. They're just not as popular among those generations.
I wonder why that is. Is that, I mean, seriously, is that a lack of community? That they don't need it or that they don't want it? Is it are they so busy on social media that they're not interested in playing video games?
Are their parents taking into consideration all of the research that has been done and not letting them play? I mean, I feel like there could be a million
Well,
different factors here.
remember that they have millennial parents
Right.
who are playing video games.
But also see the detriment that it has taken too, has caused.
I think they're using video games in a different way. I think they're using them uh, broader, socially speaking. So I heard another statistic, and I have no way to verify this, but something like 51 or 52% of people between the ages of like 10 and 24 have a Roblox account, which is a video game. But it
Mom
is
and I are
like
like,
a
huh?
Yeah.
it is like a think of like a Lego video game combined with World of Warcraft because it's this massively multiplayer, but they're more like chat rooms than they are games, is my
Oh.
understanding. And so they're using them to meet new people, to interact with people online, but not for these like story driven titles, these AAA like journeys, adventures that I was playing, they're not playing those kinds of games. They're using them almost strictly as a social interaction.
But think of that. That could be combining knowledge in one place to come up with something bleeding edge. That's a
There's a lot of weird
really,
stuff going on with Roblox. Different
yeah.
topic for a different day.
Yeah, I'm gonna
I
have to
mean,
do some research on that.
it's like AOL Instant Messenger's worst nightmare. Like the worst possible version of that is,
Really?
yeah,
Without the dial-up tone, is that what you're telling me?
yeah, there's some weird stuff going on with Roblox right now, but that's besides the point. It's just
Okay.
the way we use those technologies is very different generationally.
Interesting.
I'm trying to think, is there anything that you can think of that we still do use the same way? Not TV,
What do you mean?
not
The same way as what?
that we even did that you use the same way that I would have used at your age.
Toasters.
Toasters.
Maybe.
Toasters, the timeless technology.
I mean, but you say that. Now we have wide coasters that'll accommodate bagels that I didn't. And I would have put mine in the stove and browned it on the, you know, on the wire rack and not used a toaster at all. So, but you're close. I mean, you're really close. But I mean, kids don't ride their bicycles the same way because we used to just go out. That was our thing. You didn't come home. And now then you don't go out without supervision, really.
It's become dangerous.
It's dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to think of something that is consistent between when I was a kid and when you were a kid.
So, one of the things, like, especially talking cutting edge here, one of the things that I think you could add to this conversation is QR codes. Do you remember when those first came out? They were,
No, I don't remember when they first came out. I just remember that they kind of appeared.
Yeah,
let's
I
call
would
it
say the same.
2008, 2010. And I remember putting one on a billboard.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this was like a house size. I mean, it's 20 feet tall, huge. And it was a huge conversation amongst like us and the client. And it was like, hey, are we asking for people to be using their phones in the car to pull it out on while they're sitting in traffic to scan this QR code?
That was exactly what I was thinking. How do you get a QR code from a billboard?
The
Like
same
that.
way, scan it. And now, when's the last time you walked into a restaurant and scanned a QR code on the menu or for the menu? Because
Last
they
week.
don't have physical menus.
Yeah. Especially during
Drives me
COVID, though.
absolutely nuts because their website menus always suck.
So
It's true. I agree with you on that.
they're horrible. They're horrible.
Well, and here's my part. I don't just randomly do. I would never ever, Callie, do a QR code from a billboard. If I don't know where it's coming from, I'm not going to use it.
These were reputable companies that you for sure know and have heard of.
But how do you know that? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, technically, they'd get a cease and desist if it wasn't them.
I know, but
Eventually.
Eventually. Yeah.
eventually. But how much damage could be done in the meantime? You know? So I don't just I'm telling you, I don't open I don't open attachments if I don't know who you are. I don't do QR codes. I've been taught. It's dangerous.
Yeah.
It certainly has the potential to be.
Yeah.
Like people, like I see codes plastered on everything. If there's a QR code plastered on a telephone pole with a bunch of other posters, I am not scanning that QR code.
Yeah. We talked about that not just because the people are moving to flyers because they can't get what they want in social media. So they're putting I'm with you, Cole. I'm not gonna go scan some QR code on a telephone pole.
I wouldn't even think twice. If it was something I needed and wanted, was curious about,
Oh
I wouldn't even think twice
gosh.
about it.
Oh.
It's a QR code. What is the worst that's going to happen? I have to X out of the window that it takes me to? Nope, don't want to do
No,
that. Thanks a
can
lot.
be have crap embedded in it.
Everything can have crap embedded in it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Everything.
Oh my gosh.
So, translation here. The cutting edge is where progress feels exciting, but still within our control. The next step up is the leading edge, where you stop watching progress and start creating it.
So with QR codes, am I on the cutting edge and you're on the leading edge, or are you already up to the bleeding edge on QR codes?
I think you're bleeding and I'm leading.
I don't think I'm bleeding.
Yeah, you're missing out on all that stuff.
No, I don't think
Missing
so.
out.
Yeah,
Missing
exactly.
out. Yeah.
So again, the leading edge is where bold people are living, inventors, early adopters, all of that. So where ideas are being tested, but they're not yet proven. Again, think early space travel. I mean, I say early space travel, but I feel like space travel is still very much on the leading
Bleeding
edge. We're
edge.
still figuring it out.
Not if you're a Kardashian. It didn't happen.
What in the world?
Yeah,
What are you
no.
talking about?
Kim Kardashian came out and has very publicly stated that the moon landing was fake.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because a
But
couple of them were at the Jeff Bezos Blue Horizon all-female flight.
Not the same thing.
They went to space, but not spacey
but why
enough.
was the flag waving?
Where was the shadow from?
Why aren't there stars in all of the pictures?
Yeah.
Tim
Sorry,
K
I
been watching too
I
much
can't
Joe
believe
Rogan.
I was on the leading edge of a Kardashian news story ahead of you.
I
Yeah,
think
there.
every Kardashian news story is bleeding edge for everyone who has to hear it.
I have a point.
Oh, goodness.
Who
Okay.
cares?
Okay, sorry, Cal. I disrupted you,
That's
interrupted
okay.
you.
You're good. You're good. So, like I said, I was talking about early space travel, and then I kind of changed it up. I'm like, I guess it's not really early. Like, we're still talking about sending people to Mars in my lifetime, you know,
Yeah.
what that means and looks like. And then I'm also thinking of what was the ship that imploded, the boat, the submarine kind of, the
The
Titan
Titanic
submersible
Titan. Yeah.
when they were going down to sea. Was it the
Okay,
Titanic?
so would either one of you want to be on one of those early Mars?
Hell no.
Maybe.
Hell no.
What would make it a maybe for you?
I think being an explorer would be super cool. Being a frontiersman, a pioneer to Mars would be really interesting. Being one of those people who, because I mean, eventually I think we're going to have to expand. I think Mars is stepping off the stoop in front of your house. There's so much more beyond that.
Hmm.
Mm,
And
interesting.
so,
Interesting.
like, if that was the only opportunity, then yeah, maybe being an early Mars settler would be interesting. But like, to be perfectly honest, would much rather like freeze myself and wait for like FTL, faster than light, or near light speed space travel to push even further out into the galaxy, into the universe. I think would be absolutely incredible.
I think the
I'm
To
not.
be the
visuals would be
first one that,
awesome.
You have to wait until I'm gone to freeze yourself, okay?
yeah, I know.
That eye
I
roll
don't
was good.
I don't think I could do I don't
Whatever,
think I could.
Mom. It was there.
We're not that close with cryogenics anyways.
Don't tell Walt Disney.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. So I'm just kind of thinking about a couple of other things like that would be considered the leading edge. And I think electric car owners today are becoming, or electric cars are becoming more mainstream today than they ever have before. But those first couple of thousand people who hopped into Teslas, how did that feel? What was that
Yeah.
like?
Yeah.
Really interesting.
And I might could do some technology like that.
You haven't Ubered yet. I don't want to hear it.
So there.
Mom's over here like, Uber, kind of scary. I'm over here like, I'm Johnny Cash. I'll fly a starship across the universe divide.
Right.
That's funny.
Exactly. So go ahead.
I'm not afraid to Uber. I just don't have a need to Uber. And if I did have a need, I'd call one of y'all and say, "What the heck am I supposed to do?"
Yeah, but sometimes innovation isn't about a need, it's about a desire, a want. I
Right.
don't need to fly a starship across the universe, but man, would it be cool.
Interesting.
Having a chauffeur on demand, kind of a cool idea.
Which kind
Mm,
of brings me to my next question, the psychology of it all. What drives people to want to be those firsts? Is that
yeah.
curiosity? Is it ego? Is it optimism? Or do they just want to be first to make their mark?
I think
I
it's all
think
of the above. I think it
I
can
think
be
s-
any of them.
I think some of it is risk taking. I think some people are more risk averse,
Hmm.
or what's the opposite of
Um,
Risk
being
prone.
risk prone? It doesn't phase them, where I would you worried.
which again, I think so much of where you sit and your lived experience changes the definition of each of these. Your perspective weighs
Mm,
in to say, hey, this is where I want to be. This is where I'm scared. This is what I'm excited about.
sure.
And I think that that could be totally and completely different from one person to the next.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
I
even
think
your
I think Cole, because he doesn't have kids, is going to be more prone to say, "Oh yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that space ride." Where I'm going to be thinking, "Oh, wait a minute, I
Callie's going to
got
kill me if I die up there.
yeah, Callie's going to kill me. I got kids. I got grandkids. Can I take this risk?"
Yeah, for sure.
I think there's something to be said here, kind of what you're referring to and what we've talked about a little bit so far, perspective, but like how you use certain technologies. Like, I could use an iPhone in a way that would make it considered bleeding edge, and everybody else could be using it in a way that would just be considered cutting edge.
Yeah, like, don't you remember here a few years ago when somebody shot their first feature film using an iPhone? Nothing
Yeah,
else, just an iPhone. Like, it's the same iPhone that we have, and they took and did something totally different and unique with it.
Yeah.
That was a risk. I can't remember the name of the movie, so maybe it didn't pay off, but
I
we're
can't
talking
either.
about it.
Was it the black and white one that was all choppy?
No, that was Blair Witch Project.
That's the one I was thinking of. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was not that one.
Shut up.
I didn't say anything.
Yes, you did. You
So
just didn't verbalize it.
Blair Witch Project also came out in 1999.
So I was
You're
a
talking
little
about
off.
Cloverfield? I think that one was done on a camcorder, not an iPhone.
Now they're reaching for their little
Almighty
hand
internet.
computer.
mhm,
Nobody loves meetings.
this one's
Oh no,
called
that was on a Nokia N90.
it says Hooked Up is the first ever feature film shot entirely with an iPhone.
Yeah.
Hooked up.
Mhm.
Do I want to know what it was about?
Oh, wait, hold on. This says Park Chan Wook was the first filmmaker to dip his toes into the world of iPhone filming when he made his 2011 short film Night Fishing using an iPhone 4. The film looks surprisingly good considering that Apple has significantly developed their lenses since then. However, the first feature film shot entirely on an iPhone, in this case, an iPhone 4S, was the Spanish horror movie Hooked Up. Using
Yeah, it
a
looks real
found
creepy.
footage style in the vein of Blair Witch Project, the movie, directed by Pablo Larquin, isn't exactly a masterpiece, but regardless, its use of unusual filming techniques was a rather bold move.
As it was for Blair Witch Project.
Mhm.
Just saying.
The director's choice of the filming device was down to his inability to afford shooting on film, and he didn't want this to prevent him from bringing his idea to life.
That's fascinating.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, I like that.
And so, Cole, I think your point is totally valid. I think how you're going about using it could totally vary. And again, like, I think it varies based on your perspective, your lived experiences, your curiosity, your optimism. Let's try this. What's the worst that
I
happens?
can
We
use an
fail?
air fryer for some wild stuff.
I'm sure you can.
I can testify to that.
That's so funny.
I mean, but you're right. I mean, think about putting an iPhone in one person's hand and really all they wanna do is text and phone, call, and then you put it over here in this other person's hand, and they're gonna game, and they're gonna video, and they're gonna do this, and they're gonna be searching, and they're gonna be listening to music and building playlists and
All at the same time.
all at the same time on the exact same device. It's just being used differently, and part of
Right.
that is w that person who wants to see, "How far can this go? What can I
How
use
far
this
can I
for?"
push this?
Yeah,
What
and
is it going
so,
to take
I
for me
mean,
to
I kinda
fry
get
this
that.
thing?
I feel like that was me in computers. The first time I ever really sat down to a computer was a compact, where you had to kind of do the language to get it right, and then there was a time period where I was damn good on a computer and did push it to see what I could do and could teach other people how to do that, and now I feel like I've, regressed, and I have to go, "Now, wait a minute, Cole, how do I do X, and what do you
Well,
mean
there's so
change the
much that they
ISO on."
can do.
Yeah,
But I think it's all dependent on your needs, on your desires for those things. I want to go hop on and play a game. I want to read a book on the go and not carry the physical book. Like, I think it all is dependent, again, on your lived experience and what your priorities and needs and desires are.
yeah. I mean, you bring up a Kindle. I fought and fought and fought. I wanted a real book. I wanted to be able to turn the pages. I wanted to hold that book and smell that book. But then there came a point where you can't take 10 of those on vacation with you, but you could carry this Kindle
Yeah.
or your iPad, and you had a plethora
Unlimited
of books.
resources of
And
libraries and yeah.
I don't think I
yeah,
ever
and
read
so
more than when right after I figured out I could get Kindle on my phone.
yeah, but it was different, and it was a challenge to learn to read on a Kindle versus turning pages in a hard copy book. Now then, I mean, because I can have backlighting on it so I can read any time of day and not disrupt anybody. I don't even know. I have an argument almost every time Pam and I choose a new book as to whether she wants the hard copy. And I'm thinking, well, no, I can. And here's the other thing, I can make notes in my Kindle that last forever.
Yep.
Every time I pull that book up, that note is still there. So there's there's still an edge to that of how we use that and what we do and who wants to.
Yeah. And I think a willingness to try and navigate something new and something different. This isn't what I know. This isn't where I'm comfortable. Am I still willing to try and take it on? What's the worst that could happen? I don't like it and I spent 200 bucks, and so I think it just changes and I think it changes by person. I'm also curious as to if you guys think it changes generationally.
I do. And in some respects.
Yeah, I
Again,
mean,
depending on that person.
generally, but there are guys that are older than mom that are avid video game players.
I was just sitting here thinking, my grandfather had such a sense of wanting to know more that he would have been on a computer in a heartbeat. It wouldn't have fazed him. He would have thought it was the most fascinating thing. It would have been like a rocket ship ride to him. My grandmother on the other side wouldn't, I can't see that she ever would have touched one. She would have thought it was of the devil. And she would not have been interested whatsoever. He would have loved it and would have explored and would have been so happy, and she would have been miserable if you'd have made her do it. I mean, even, gosh, we got her a cell phone. When she was driving in her 90s, we bought her a cell phone. She was supposed to take it with her. She couldn't keep the stupid thing charged. She just, I mean, it was the most frustrating thing to her in the world to have a cell phone. And we finally said, never mind, you're not going to use it. We're getting rid of this because she wasn't going to use it. So, yes, generationally, but I think more independent of that is that
Yeah,
individual
interpersonally.
psyche.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I would
agree.
have loved to have seen my grandfather on a computer.
hmm I get that from him. Somebody asks a question and I'm the first one who's like, I don't know. Let me look it up. Let's see.
Let's
Yeah.
go find out.
Yeah. Why not? Because we can.
Especially when it's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that good definition is so subjective. Hey, who is that actor in that movie we're watching? That's a great question. I know I recognize him from something else. Who is it? Let me go see.
Yeah.
And I mean,
Mine's
I
more
think
like, how much fuel does it take to get from Earth to Mars?
Who's
we were
singing that
having a
song?
conversation not too long ago about how many smoke detectors would it take to power a Tesla. And a bunch of guys sat down and did all of the math and figured it out, and I didn't care.
Wait, why would you want a smoke detector to power a Tesla?
I don't think that you would want to. The question was just how many would it take?
Right.
Just to know.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that just be how many batteries does it take?
Kind of like the question, Mom, is who would you take in a fight, the sun or 1 trillion lions? And obviously the answer is it's the 1 trillion lions because they would attack the sun at night.
Okay.
Thank you, Internet.
I just think that in many ways, like looking at it, like I said, we were talking earlier about microwaves and color TV, like baby boomers watched women really enter the workforce, really enter male dominated fields. They have seen the tech boom really take off, the trajectory of that really launch into space, if you
Yeah.
will, and be cognizant of environmentalism and what that means and looks like and how everything has changed. I mean, you guys, how many times have we made the joke about listening to a baby boomer or the greatest generation tell stories about when I was a kid, we had to walk both ways and the 7 miles to
5
school
miles uphill
uphill.
both ways in the snow.
Yeah.
With a hot potato that I used for my lunch.
I mean, if you don't think that those folks have noticed the impacts of the world changing and the environment changing, I would be shocked. And then you've got millennials here who grew up with the internet and the everyday leading edge of look how cool this is and how great everything is. I mean, this was long before AI and chatbots and things like that. I mean, we had the Ooga Chaka baby, you know?
I love the Uga Chugga baby.
And so, I mean, but access to anything and everything that you wanted was right there.
Yeah.
And I just think that, I mean, even now, we've talked about it previously. In the last few years, you've had the growth of the the sector of people who have become millionaires based on internet fame, based
Yeah.
on YouTube channels, and based on blogs and influencers,
Starts I look at the number of influencers.
because anyone can innovate now. All you have to have is
I
that
mean, I
cell
think
phone
that's
again.
even a change from, when I grew up, you were supposed to go get a job, stay in
Mhm.
that job. And now then you have people who are influencers sitting in their home doing whatever floats their boat, and it's their job. I
Yeah.
mean, that's how and a lot of times they're making more money than I ever dreamed about.
I mean, but I was listening to an interview with a girl who's a big influencer now and has started this seven-figure business in the last couple of years by being an influencer and using her platform that she gained.
Mhm.
But when she started being an influencer, she lost more than half of her followers because everybody's like, this is dumb. Nobody wants to hear about you and what it is that you're buying. And now she has millions of
Oh,
followers who are hanging on her every word. What is she recommending to me?
yeah. It's wild. It's a whole different kind of job.
I mean, I think that it really truly is a double-edged sword. You have the early adopters who can either be admired or ridiculed depending on how it goes, how they utilize it, you know?
Sometimes both.
Yeah.
Sometimes both. And what that, like how that impacts you, how you allow that to impact you. And I mean, she has a whole thing about failing forward. It doesn't matter that you fail, just keep failing forward, keep moving,
Yeah.
keep going. Cole always says, quick or dead. Do something.
Wow.
Don't just sit here stagnant. But
Kind of fascinating to think about.
yeah. Well, and I think that to kind of put it into perspective, the leading edge is the risk zone between innovation and instability. The leading edge could teeter either way, right? These are the people that we call visionaries long after it has already happened, after we've ridiculed them and said, that's never going to work. Nobody's going to buy books on the internet.
Who needs a light bulb? That's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that society romanticizes risk takers more than people who refine and sustain their work?
The successful
Sometimes.
ones.
I mean, I think it's sometimes, and I don't think that it's always good. I mean, don't you think that's what we did with Zuckerberg?
Yeah, I could see that.
And
Now we're kind of afraid of him.
now I'm kind of afraid of him.
Hmm.
I feel like his mission or his integrity or his values have been altered.
Maybe all three.
And I would say that that's, a question. Is that based on this accumulation of wealth?
Yeah. The losing of some of that integrity to do better just to do
Yeah.
selfishly.
Yeah. So while you have to admire a kid a kid doing what he did at the same time, and 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 maybe you just have to say it was bigger than he ever dreamed of and got away. That's possible too.
And I think that that's a perfect transition into the bleeding edge because the leading edge really is thrilling and exciting to a point until somebody starts to bleed. And that's when you get into the bleeding edge, when that risk stops being theoretical, not what could happen, but what is.
In mom speak, that's until somebody gets hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, unstable innovation is exciting but risky. It's still experimental. We're still trying to figure all of this out.
Isn't that where we are with cryptocurrency?
I think we're on our way out of the bleeding edge, off of the bleeding edge. You've got major
Maybe.
banks, major regulation that are kind of coming around it. And so I think it's on the horizon for us to get off of the bleeding edge.
But I think there's some wild hares out there too.
Oh,
For
absolutely.
And I don't know that it's like we're not keeping up with it fast enough. It's developing so quickly that we're not keeping up with it fast enough to know when somebody's going to get hurt.
Which way's up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that's a little scary.
I mean, personally, I think that a lot of our push into AI is very much quantifiable as being on the bleeding edge. Not necessarily that it is causing harm, not to say that it's not, because I do think that there is some harm that is being caused right now. But I think that there is potential for a lot that, to me, forces it up to being on the bleeding edge just because
Yeah.
we don't know where its limits are yet.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
we know what its current limits are, but the guys who are building it are pushing those limits every
Every day.
day. They are
Yeah.
expanding those limits, and we don't know what's beyond the edge, if you will.
Well, and we've talked about this. This could be a great companion to someone who's lonesome, or it could be detrimental and encourage suicide or self-harm. And that's based on the individual who's using it privately. So you're not going to see this up front.
Well, and I think that the other part of it that we can't miss is that in order for us to be innovative, we have to bust through that bleeding edge.
Yeah.
We have to go out there and dip our toes and go, is this going to hurt? Is this going to bite me? And work through all of that pain and work through all of that bloodshed to figure out our way forward.
Yeah.
I think that that kind of is embodied in a sense of hope. I want this to work out, so I'm going to keep putting forth the effort. I'm going to push through the pain to figure out where the line is to get me out of the bleeding edge into the leading edge. The ambition that is required for that. I mean, that's
The
not just
courage.
everybody. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that
And
there are real Go ahead.
what happens when you bleed out trying to get there?
I think you hope that somebody else carries on your mission. I think that you kind of end up a sacrifice to the cause. And I think that, I mean,
Does
I'm
that
thinking
make you a
about
martyr or a moron?
probably both.
Dependent on who's looking at it.
And depending on what the outcome actually is. I mean, if you're going to
If
go
somebody
climb
picks it
Mount
up and keeps
Everest,
carrying it.
yeah, if you're going to go climb Mount Everest and be the first person to do that, there's a pretty serious sense of ego that has to be kind of at the heart of that. Versus now you've got so many people going to climb Mount Everest that it's at a standstill. And I mean, there's huge money and dollars going into that to make sure that this is easy enough for you, or we're going to make it as failure proof as possible. I mean, but there are still very much impacts of that
Yeah. And when you get to
real
the other
world
side where it's a norm, has it lost all of its excitement,
luster.
luster? Yeah.
In some cases, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, but I think that there are lots of real world impacts at play here. I mean, think about it from a financial standpoint, the money that has to be invested in order for something to take off. And "Ugh, this isn't working. Let me keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing." Somebody has to fund all of that failure.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying it requires a pretty significant capital to be able to work through all of that and keep pushing. And you've got to convince other people that this is worth buying into. This is
Yeah.
worth trying. Then you've got the social impacts of it. And I mean, using that same example, I keep coming to you as my investor saying, let me fail one more time. Let me try one more time. Let me keep going. And the toll that that takes on that relationship, now they don't, at what point do they not believe me anymore?
Yeah.
You know? And then I think that you've also kind of got that personal impact on you. That's gotta be exhausting in some capacity. You know, we talked about the guy who filmed the first feature film on his iPhone. He was so passionate about it, he didn't want to lose the idea and not be able to make it happen for lack of funding. But you can't tell me that his journey to get that all filmed was easy. Can you imagine going to various movie houses and saying, "Hey, I filmed this feature film on my iPhone." And they're like, "You think we're gonna play that in the theater?"
Yeah.
Like that, I can only imagine was so disheartening.
Yeah.
Would you guys say that you've ever stepped into something too soon? Whether it was a belief, a movement, a shiny new thing that then bit back? I have a really funny example for you.
Well, you go because mine aren't funny.
I mean, mine's embarrassing to me, but also kind of funny. So during, I guess it was the 2008 election. Was it 2008? It must have been. When Sarah Palin came out to be the VP nominee, I thought she was going to be great. And then
For a
she
moment,
opened her
some of
mouth.
us did.
And then she opened her mouth. And I don't think she was great.
I don't think
I
that
can
should be
see Russia
embarrassing
from
to
my
you.
backyard.
Yeah. It was like I had such high hopes for her, and then she started speaking and you're just like, "Girl, get your act together, man."
I would say probably the most common occurrence of this for me has been in some of the more recent, and I say that maybe not more recent, but in the last probably 10 years or so, some of these brand new video games, and I don't even know if I would really consider them this bleeding edge. To be perfectly honest, I think it's more corporate bloat and creative laziness than anything, but there has been
So
uh,
fun.
trend in the Western gaming industry that gamers finally are really starting to kind of get fed up with and move away from, but where these incomplete video games are getting shipped and they want you to pay full price for them and they're not delivering on their end of the bargain.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's really kind of a fair analogy, but sometimes you get into something that's just so new, it's not ready yet. It's not done.
Yeah. I have been the beta tester on several operating systems, and I'm just like, this is horrible. And you're ruining my everyday life so that I can help you fix this. And while I'm appreciative of people who are willing to do it, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I got shit to do. I cannot sit here and deal with all of your mess.
Yeah, I was recently tagged for a new system that they wanted to test, and I was all for it. I thought, this will pull everything together that we utilize on a daily basis. This will be a good thing. And about the 15th message that says, "Hey, you haven't done X. We need you to do this." And me replying, "Yes, you were going to fix that." that I just gave up and thought, you know what? Come back to me when you're a little bit farther down the line because you ain't paying attention right now. So I'm done with you.
Yeah. Because you were tired of bleeding.
Yes. I mean, the idea there is good, but so far the execution has just not been there. And you can only go so far with that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
Do you think that we as a society are addicted to the idea of innovation, and so we kind of brush off the bleeding edge because it feels like progress?
I don't think you can generalize all of society that way. Do I think there's a segment that is? Sure. But
yeah,
I can tell you from experience, there's also a huge segment of society that doesn't want things to change.
Mhm.
for sure.
That do not want to learn something new. They don't
Mm.
want the newest cell phone because the last one they had a hard enough time with. They want to keep their Windows 98 operating system because they know it. They don't
It's
want to
where they're
learn.
comfortable.
Yeah, it's where they're comfortable. And I think that that is just as many, if not more, people than are really pushing that bleeding edge.
Yeah. That's so funny. I was absolutely thinking about don't screw with my word. Just every time they decided to do a major overhaul, and you just thought, please don't do this. It's so, and you get there and you figure it out, and it's of benefit generally, sometimes, not everything, but
Sometimes it's
at the
hard to
same time,
understand the benefit.
yeah, it is. It takes a little while to figure out. And sometimes it's just bells and whistles that don't mean anything.
Yep.
So you do get
Yeah.
aggravated.
Yeah. Sometimes there is innovation that makes it more cumbersome to use. So it's really not all that innovative. Like, I think one thing that a lot of gamers would tell you that, hey, these microtransactions are not
Yeah,
innovation for us. They're annoying for us.
yeah,
Like, we want to buy a finished product, own it, and be able to do what we can or want with it.
yeah,
Mhm.
And the creators of these products are like, well, we're less interested in building you a complete product and more interested in sucking as much money out of you as we can.
yeah.
And those two differences in desire have very much led to a rift between the creators of these games and the players of these games.
I'm sure.
And I mean, at some point, it was such a big thing, I think, especially for the young men of my generation, having access to all of these stories, these opportunities to be the hero, to be the bad guy,
Yeah,
to live in a world and be able to push boundaries that you can't push in real life was really interesting. And I don't now that seems to be locked behind a paywall because they figured out that that's what we were after.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then along the way, they forgot that that's what we were after. And now it's just the paywall with nothing on the other side in a lot of instances. And so that kind of disconnect has been interesting to watch over the last 10 or 15 years.
I mean, I think that that kind of sums it up for me. I think that we know that the bleeding edge hurts, but we also know that that's where breakthroughs really take place. So maybe isn't so much about avoiding the bleeding edge, but also being cognizant and aware of knowing yourself and how much bleeding you personally can handle.
Yeah.
I think there's a process of figuring that out, though, that it's unique to each individual and
Mhm.
not always easy for everyone.
I would agree.
So,
I would agree. It's weird how unique it is to everybody, but I
yeah.
I just wonder, do you think that there are, I'll call them concepts for lack of a better word. Do you think that there are concepts or innovations even that have hit all three edges?
Sure. Well, I mean,
Like
I
what?
think you can point at the internet and say that it exists on all three edges simultaneously right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say TV.
I just, in my brain, I like structure, right? So in my brain, like, I feel like I want it to go in chronological order. I
Yeah,
want
but
it,
sometimes it goes back and forth.
right. Exactly. And so that's why I was just sitting here and I've thought about it for several days now as we've been preparing for this. And I'm like, I don't think it can go in chronological order. Maybe it does sometimes, but it depends on a whole bunch of other factors
Yeah.
as to where it goes, lands, ends up, and how it moves even after that.
And
Yeah.
at the exponential rate with which technology continues to improve and expand and increase, that
Evolution.
that oscillation between those three edges is going to only become more and more volatile
Mhm.
as we continue to push those boundaries.
Yeah.
The lines between those edges is going to get blurrier and blurrier, I think.
I think it's also gonna come down to the value behind that or the mission behind that. Do you know what I mean? I think if you have integrity and maybe the good of mankind there, that it will be an easier transition than if it's just a dollar amount that you're looking for.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because I think that we're really good at taking the person out of personal. And I think that when you kind of get that equation right, we can make a lot of progress. We can have big impact
Yeah.
that benefits lots of people. But if we do that without the people, what are we benefiting?
Yeah. You said that much better.
I was just sitting here saying it sounds like word spaghetti.
It's okay.
So, are you guys ready to jump into our weird thought?
Sure.
I thought this has been nothing but weird thoughts for me. But
Weird
yeah,
thought episode.
let's get it.
So we talked the other day about Amazon and free shipping and how spoiled we all have become with Prime and getting it here immediately or not at all. And I'm really curious. In a lot of deliveries for Amazon, you have to hit like a $25 threshold, right? And every now and then you'll find something that's $23.99
Hate
and you
those.
need a dollar and a penny to make your Amazon threshold, your free shipping threshold. So I'm curious as to what you guys have seen on Amazon that is like the cheapest items that you can add to your cart to meet your free shipping threshold.
Well, and did you guys not tell me that there's not something on Amazon that has stuff like that on there to meet your like a
I think that they have added that here in the last couple of years. Hey, you need $6 left. Here's all the stuff that would apply.
that
Yeah, I'm
cracks me up.
looking. There's
I gotta go find that.
a tattoo aftercare balm that is 24.99 that I reorder pretty regularly when I get some new ink. So I'm just looking through my order history here. I've got breakfast sausages at 4.97 to get me over that hump.
Nice.
Let's
That goes with
see.
your tattoo balm.
Yeah. Uh Sharpie gel pens are a pretty regular go-to to get me over that hump.
Alrighty.
Socks all the time. A package of socks. Those aren't really the cheapest, but regularly it's like I'm at $17. Packages of socks is $6. Got it.
Yeah, but you go through socks like crazy, so that's
Exactly.
almost a
Like
Gimme.
almost just a necessity.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
standard purchase.
Yeah.
I bought my really fancy see-through sticky notes the other day, transparent sticky notes to get up there, And I have to say, I'm a little disappointed in them. They smear.
Oh, how much did they cost you?
$5.99.
I've seen a couple of food items. Like I'm looking at one right now. It's a package of pasta
Yeah.
and it's 44 cents. Or here's a jar of tomato sauce for 48 cents.
Which I would never look for.
No.
That's so funny.
Here is
Well, there you
a
go, Boo.
bottle of acrylic paint.
Here's the deal, Boo. You put the pasta on yours for your $24.99 tattoo balm and bring me the pasta.
Okay. Deal.
Okay?
Sounds good.
I'll be happy with that one.
I saw a Reddit thread not too long ago. It's like, hey, I need to hit my threshold. What are your cheap items that I can go look at? And so it's all these people weighing in. It was pretty funny.
Oh, that's hysterical.
Oh yeah. Okay, we need a cutting edge, leading edge story, Mom. Give us some good news.
A good news story. Well, I thought this one was kind of cute. It's not quite the Louvre heist, but a little bear cub broke into the zoo.
Into
The zoo
okay.
at the Sequoia Park Zoo in Eureka, California, which sits next to Sequoia Park National Park. A young bear, which they immediately noticed was not one of theirs, was seen rubbing noses, saying hi, batting around the toys in the other bear cage. And they said overall, he was a very polite visitor. The zoo supervisor said that he stayed on the boardwalk path like you're supposed to when you're visiting the zoo. He kept 2 feet on the ground and he didn't try to climb over the railings. So, with the help of the California Fish and Wildlife Warden, the bear was eventually coaxed through the service gate and back out into the wilds of the park. And everybody had a little bit of fun about, this little bear coming to visit. They think it was a little female. And I did not know this, but there's a point about that age when bears leave their mamas and venture out on their own. So he was really just a regular teenager jumping over walls and getting in trouble and getting run off.
Being
And maybe all
curious.
he wanted was a zoo membership. Or there were a couple of people who had a little bit of fun. Y'all didn't like the puns about it being, he just wanted to be an ambassador, or about it being October Bear Fest. But just a little bear. They're not quite sure how he got in. But they had to stop everybody that was in the zoo. Nobody got hurt, not even the bear, to run the bear out of the zoo.
I mean, that doesn't
Isn't that kind
happen
of like
that
breaking
way all
into
day.
prison?
Right?
Yeah.
Right? That's so funny that
3
a
meals a
wild
day, I
bear
guess.
broke into the zoo to go visit the captive bears.
I mean, you get regular feeding. They take care of you if you're sick. Got friends right on hand. I mean, could be some advantages here.
Are you ready for me to put you into an assisted living facility? Because all of those things are still true.
No.
Okay, then.
Okay. That was mean.
I mean, it was a fitting analogy, though.
Whatever.
Who wouldn't want that?
Yeah. Some people would.
I don't know. Some teenagers would be like, hey, that sounds like a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah.
Some teenagers also ate Tide Pods.
Fair point.
Too funny.
Well, sword
Okay,
mentality was an interesting conversation, guys.
Y'all just make fun of my little bear, but we'll see if he breaks back in, if he makes a repeat performance.
Yeah,
I
maybe
think
he's
it's
got a
cute.
girlfriend in there.
Good.
I thought you said it was a she.
Yeah. So
Maybe
she'd
she's
have
got a
what?
boyfriend in there.
She
Romeo
could
and
have a girlfriend
Juliet.
too.
I'm about to say,
She
it's
could have a
California.
girlfriend. I gotta
Love
go
you
now.
guys. Bye.
Bye.